There's no secret formula for better customer service, but there is the all-new Service Hub from HubSpot, bringing service and support together in one powerful platform so you can deliver the best experiences possible and free up a rep's time with an AI-powered help desk. All so you can easily support and grow your customer base. Secrets out, everybody. Service Hub is a game changer. Visit HubSpot.com/service to learn more. It's Sunday, May 19th, and you know what that means. I'm Jon Weigell, and this is the weekend edition of the Hustle Daily Show. Today, we're welcoming the CEO of VaynerMedia and best-selling author Gary Vaynerchuk onto the show to speak about the social media economy, his advice for successful social ad campaigns, branding in 2024 for creators, small and large businesses alike, and of course, his new book, Day Trading Attention. If you want to learn about how to actually use social media to your brand's advantage, this is going to be a great chat for you. So let's get into it. All right. Hey, Gary, how's it going? Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. It's a pleasure to have you here. And, we got you here for many different reasons, but obviously the one big reason today is to talk about your new book. I actually have a copy right here with me. Wanted to talk to you a bit about this book because it comes out May 21st. And, you've written a lot of books in your time, and compared to other works like Crushing It and the other works that you've put out, what's so different about this one, and what did you kind of aim to give your audience this time around?
Well, it's actually kind of interesting because Crushing It was the follow-up to Crush It. And I would say Day Trading Attention is the follow-up to Jab, 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 Right Hook. 10 years ago, I wrote a book that really hit. One of the definite reasons I wrote this book was how many people were emailing me about Jab, 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 Right Hook in the last year or two. When that book was written in 2014 of best practices of social media creative, that was intended to really be a book that was good for 2014 and 15. And I was like, wait a minute, people are emailing me and saying, this is so great and it's helped them grow, when I know 83% of that book is obsolete or not as great as they could be doing. And originally Day Trading Attention was called Jab, 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 Left Hook. And so it's different than some of my books, but it's very similar to one I've written in the past. And then specifically now, because I really do think marketing has finally tilted to, we're on the other side of the hill. No longer are we debating, is social an important part of the mix, I think you've got to be pretty out of touch, delusional, or corporate political to be fighting for alternative platforms as your predominant bet on building a brand and driving sales. Obviously Google AdWords is intent-based selling, right? People search something, they buy it, fine. But I'm talking about brand building for the sake of brand building or sales, both for personal brand, nonprofit, political aspirations, and definitely selling stuff as an entrepreneur or a Fortune 50 company. And I would say the Fortune 5000 set is incredibly bad at social media marketing. And I don't say incredibly bad lightly. And I'll be honest with you, I actually think I'm being kind. I think there's a huge disconnect. There's not ways to measure it. There's a misunderstanding. It's incredibly corporate when it needs to be authentic. And so big opportunity to write the book. John, I don't know if you, did you have a chance to read it or skim it?
Yes, absolutely.
Read or skim?
Read.
So actually, just to flip the turntables for fun, what was the biggest aha or biggest observation you had? I haven't been able to talk to a lot of people that have read it yet, so I'm pretty excited right now.
Yeah.
What was the take? What was the best part or the most surprising part?
I got to say, one of the things that really did surprise me in your take on everything, and it's something that completely kind of goes against the grain of everything in advertising as far as big brands are concerned, is kind of the abandonment of brand guidelines.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really fantastic realization because I've worked in ad agencies before, and every time you're in there, they want to be very, very specific about we have to use these colors, we have to use these specific fonts, we have to cater to exactly what our brand is like in a commercial. But it seems like you kind of went against the grain there and said, you know what, you have to blend in to this platform like TikTok or Instagram. You can't be a sore thumb. And if you're kind of a brand coming in there with your preconceived notions about what your content should be, then it's not going to work out for you. So I thought that was a really fun realization.
Yeah, I think that context matters. I think relevance at scale to as many consumer segmentations is incredibly more important to actually driving business than delusional, subjective opinions in a boardroom. Fonts and colors, to your point, I have all sorts of feelings about that, but I can somewhat get on board occasionally if I'm tired. But man, someone's opinion of an adjective or like a picture, the big issue that brands have, to your point, is they are pushing corporate down historical academia of marketing ideology. Most of the principles that marketing in agencies in Fortune 500 land are living on is based on books and academia that is foundational to the 80s and early 90s pre-consumer internet. And so just so everybody knows, the way you phrased it, blending in, to me, it's like, look, if you go to a cocktail party and you're not relevant in your words and your dress and your demeanor and your energy and your charisma to the 27 to 32-year-old Hispanic males in that corner, and you come over and you bomb and they're not interested, it's unlikely that you'll be able to get them to be your friends or do things with them.
Right.
Same for a brand. If your brand shows up with its textbook brand positioning guidelines and you post something on TikTok, and let me say this slow, that's trying to make a 35 to 40-year-old young mom buy your product, we're not talking about the kids now. This is not just Gen Z. The stunning amount of 35 to 45-year-old females that consume TikTok all day long, if you're trying to give them a commercial, let's go back to what we do here, that makes them buy your beauty product or your apparel or your home goods, and it is not contextual to TikTok and it is not relevant to them, because in this scenario, you're making an ad for, Korean born immigrant moms that are into yoga in the Pacific Northwest, it will not sell. And I watch every day Fortune 5,000 companies. And I say 5,000 because it's not just Fortune 500. When you go into 5,000, you go into late stage venture capital, you go into private equity owned brands. I watch them continuously miss the mark by bringing television, process, operations, and mentality to a social media real world. And it is why we are seeing so much disruption and change.
And the shame with that is, you mentioned it in your book, that it seems like nowadays for brands, the opportunity is endless out there because they can put out any content any time of the day. They can test things out. They can take those stats, apply them to whatever commercials they want to do, more targeted things in the future, as you mentioned. But it is now kind of the best time for brands if they want to get on top of this trend, because as you talked about it too, you have this part of social media now, ever since TikTok, you call it TikTokification, where you are served things based on what you like and not people you like or people you follow. So has that completely changed the game, and can brands now do whatever they want?
In a way that's bananas. Like the merit. Do you understand that I've been grinding every day for 15 years to build up this audience of mine that I treated like email marketing, meaning I would try to put out a piece of content that brought them value, but I knew that I put in all this work and I had 15 million followers and a percentage of them would see it, just like email and email open rates. Now you, brother, can post a video today around ping pong, around this blog or this podcast or this whatever. And if the content is right of the moment culturally and uses best practices on platform, and the book I talk about it as PAC, platforms and culture, the fact that you can get more views than anything I've ever made in my career, that is a level of creative meritocracy and consumer insights to why it happened that Fortune 500s dream about and spend millions of dollars on. And I can't believe that they continue to disrespect this as content. These are ads.
Right.
Social media ads. This is a new thing at VaynerMedia. We've banned content. It is social media ads.
Wow.
And even the word test. Do you know that we've also banned test? And you're not wrong about the way you said it. But when you say, hey, brand, you can test and learn, and they just think it's a proxy to the commercial. To me, this is advertising for the sake of better advertising. John, let me say this. I start the book with the ocean spray example that it all sold out across America because of one TikTok. More recently, Walgreens has a private label called Nice. You probably bought their nuts like everybody else at the register, right?
And I've bought like their water for $5 for 24 before. Oh yeah, you bet.
They have a private label named Nice. And one of the things they make amongst peanuts and water is mango gummy candies.
That's right.
So this is on your radar?
Yep. Yeah, we've reported on it actually a few weeks ago.
I love you because that means you are doing God's work to changing this industry. A single post, as you know, of mango gummy, nice private label mango candy went out, caught fire, and every bag at Walgreens across America sold out. So much so that if everybody who's listening right now goes to eBay, opens up the app or their laptop and goes to eBay and types in nice mango gummies, enter, and then if they know how to use eBay, go to completed items and click, you will see that many people have bought them for a massive arbitrage on the flip because the demand was that significant.
Yep.
A single ad, not even done by an agency or a brand, sold out this product across America in record time, had enormous economic impact. And there is not a single example of a television commercial achieving that in the last 5 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's incredibly impressive. It really speaks to the power of social media, the power of the internet as well to kind of carry things, get trends going. And, Gary, you mentioned something earlier about you spending 15 years grinding. You're still grinding. I know you are. But there was a time period at the beginning of your career where you were grinding for 7+ years and that was alone, by yourself, doing work, kind of putting it out and producing your own stuff. What was that grind like for 7+ years? Because a lot of creators now are one-stop shops, and this was even much before then. So can you talk a little about that early day?
It was enjoyable, right? I was trying to build an internet business and a retail business for my dad's store. To your point, I literally made the signs. When I say I made the signs, I literally, like, an hour of my day every day in my 20s was going around the store, making new displays of things I wanted to sell, and then taking out like an 8x10 piece of hard paper and taking a marker and making signs and putting it up and watching consumer behavior and trying to learn how to write emails that made people buy things back in 97, 98, 99, 2000, buying my own Google AdWords, managing, operating early on in my creator career from 2006 to 2013. All of my content I did myself. I filmed it, I put it up. Like, I wrote every tweet. Honestly, it's the days that I most miss. Mm-hmm. It's fun. I love the journey. I'm in a weird point in my career where now people know me, and that's different. That's a new phenomenon for me. And I'll never do a new business or new venture where it'll be in the dark.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I missed the dark. I missed nobody paying attention to my mad scientist ways and clocking in and clocking out and putting in the work and learning and making mistakes and adjusting and really honing my humility and confidence and balancing those two, and consumers, listening for the opportunity to talk. Mm-hmm. So much of my career is based on what I say. Most people don't realize most of my day is listening, mm-hmm. reading my DMs, watching what's happening, what's trending, seeing mango gummies go viral before it's written about or covered on a great show like this. I pride myself on having my pulse to the beginning of things. And our micro moments, viral moments, actually previews of macro consumer trends. I'm going to say that really slow one more time, because I think this could be the one sentence that brings value to senior marketers that are listening. Mm-hmm. Can a micro viral moment be the beginning of a macro consumer trend? These are things I really care about. And so, mm-hmm. What was it like? It was the best, especially because I was building it for my father, right?
Right.
I was very obsessed, probably unhealthy, obsessed in giving back to my parents, bringing us from the Soviet Union to America. I put my parents on a pedestal. They're my best friends. I love them the most. And I knew I was a talented kid with business because I'd proven that to myself with baseball cards and early times that I worked in the liquor store from 14 to 20. And so the early days were awesome in building the business, and the early days of being a content creator were awesome because I was learning the craft. I think something that makes VaynerMedia, my agency, so unique is I'm the chairman CEO, but I am an active executor of our services, and am easily, and this is with all due respect, I apologize to all 2,000 employees that work for me when they hear this, but I'm easily the most proficient and skilled at the craft as well within the organization. That is unheard of, brother, in advertising.
Yeah.
Every CEO that I compete with is sitting in an ivory tower of a corporation, predominantly in Europe, that couldn't post on a social network or know how to run a media play or know what, LiveRamp is, or data lakes, or DMPs, or forget about what I wrote about in this book, the first 3 seconds of a video and the creative variable and the copy and the time you post, the science around the art. I mean, this is my craft.
Yeah. Yeah. And you do really immerse yourself in your craft. You talked about listening, and that's something you also mentioned in the book a lot, is that people have asked you, for example, everybody knows you're an early investor in Tumblr and Facebook and Twitter. So I imagine a lot of people ask you to predict what they should invest in, what they should be doing next. But in reality, you say what they should be doing is listening. So how do you listen, and how do you prescribe people to listen nowadays in social? Just spend time on the platforms, or is it more than that?
It's a little bit more than that, but not much, brother. To your point, the point that you were making earlier for everyone who's listening, everyone's like, man, you saw around corners. I'm like, nah, I was just walking on the actual street, and then I would turn on the corner and I'm like, oh, there it is, the trash can or the alley cat or a painting. And so I'm a practitioner. And I think that's a huge factor in marketing. I think the industry is filled with pontificators and corporate animals. I'm a practitioner. And so when I say listen, I'll give you an example. I'll do it right here on the spot. I'm going to my phone. I'm opening an app. I'm going to the app store. I'm going to search, right? This is all happening in real time. I didn't get a chance to do it this morning. Usually I try to do it, but I didn't. So this will be fun. I am scrolling top free apps. Number 1, ChatGPT. Okay. I don't need to be a genius to know that the last decade, every day looking at the top of the charts has given me an incredible indication of what's going on out there. ChatGPT, I would like to think most people know what that is that are listening. As you can imagine, there's a direct correlation of what's going on in AI and this app being number 1. Makes sense to me.
Makes sense.
Right? The one that stands out right away is number 5, Threads on Instagram. I'm feeling Threads is declining, obviously from that hype. But here it is up there. I'm like, ooh, was there an update today? Is there something going on? I have to look a little bit deeper, right? But then you keep going, right? The fact that Shine and Temu, low-cost shopping, so shopping, okay, e-commerce, CapCut, number 10, wow. Editing literally CapCut being number 10 speaks directly to why I wrote Day Trading Attention. We are in the moment now where people are realizing there is art and science to being great at social, to really crush. That's interesting, right? I keep going, but what I'm really looking for, just so everyone knows, is I'm going to scroll a little bit lower. I'm actually going to go to 150. Just to see real quick for the phone, or actually I'm going to go down even further. So I'm at 200 and I'm going up now, right? And banned app for all groups, 197. And this is to keep all your groups organized. I'm like, oh, this looks like group chat. What's this? So this is something that I now is on my radar. Now, if for a month I see banned go from 197 to 44, well, it's time to download it and really play.
Ooh, yeah.
And that's why I saw Musical.ly so early on. And that's why I saw Snapchat so early on. And so you're really looking at these things to understand what's popping. I also see Domino's and Alexa, and I see, Wingstop 191. There's a direct correlation to this data of what's going on, right? WNBA 172. I don't think anyone's going to be confused here. The WNBA is hotter today than it was 24 months ago. Crumble, the cookie app, 170, kudos to them. That's interesting. And so what you're seeing is I'm kind of giving you kind of how my brain works. I'm paying attention to what is happening. That's one of the places I may go. Trending topics. There's an app called Break the Web that I've been using lately that just kind of aggregates the news, almost like trending topics for what's going on the internet. Trending topics that we would look at for Twitter and X was very big for me for a long time. This is doing it for the whole web. Right?
Yeah.
I see Bridgerton recap. I see Supreme Court. I see Blake Lively. I click on Blake Lively. Stars in a new movie. Now I know, right now, I didn't know this a second ago, that Blake Lively and Colleen Hoover, this is very fun to say for everyone to listen. The reason I tend to know a lot of stuff about emerging consumer segmentations and consumer trends is because I spend the time putting in the work to try to know. AKA, for a lot of people that are listening in ad land, I am a strategist. But I'm not a strategist that goes to Reddit and takes I'm all over the place. I'm absolutely everywhere, as many places as I can. And whether that's Reddit or Instagram or TikTok, and I'm staying curious. I'm looking at the podcast top 100, 200. I'm looking at the apps top 100, 200. I'm reading people's comments. I'm just kind of in it.
Yeah. And that's a great place to be. It's important to keep your finger on the pulse. As you mentioned, as a CEO and founder of a company, to just be that on top of it, that's very unique.
My big thing here, brother, is why wouldn't you be?
Yeah.
It's the customer. Like people are like, Gary, I don't have time for this. I'm like, what are you spending your time on? If you're not spending your time on trying to understand what humans care about, if I'm putting on my professional hat, so that you can then have an opportunity to make it relevant to them, what are you spending your time on? What are you spending your time on if you're not paying attention to what's going on in the world so you can be a better parent, a better sibling, a better, even little silly stuff, a better dinner date? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, right. Be informed. You should be informed. And something that you did mention in your book is after getting informed, right? After knowing who you're trying to reach, what you're going to do. Now, talk to me about actually producing the content. So there's a lot of social media platforms out there. Everybody knows, you got your YouTube, you got your TikTok, you got your X, you got your Instagram. And I feel like everybody should be diversifying the kind of content they put on each platform, but not everybody does that because they don't feel like it, or maybe they produce this one content and, you might as well just put it everywhere and see what sticks. What is your advice for kind of diversifying each piece of content for each platform?
I think you can take the same video and post it everywhere, but I highly recommend that if you're posting on LinkedIn and you're posting on TikTok, let's think about those two
very different places.
And you're posting the same video. At bare minimum, and I do this a lot, because this would be my bare minimum move in this scenario. At bare minimum, please change the copy completely to support the platform. Good news, copywriters, your copy is required in these environments. Like, you really need to figure out where and what the audience is thinking about. And that's how I would attack it. Like, now my preference is that you would change the thumbnail, the first 3 seconds, the hook, along with the copy. And I think as you get more advanced and you allocate more dollars to it, you should. But that's how I think about platform strategy and how to get more content out into the world. More platforms, more platforms, more platforms.
Yeah.
And then more different pieces of creative. The big issue right now for a lot of people listening is on brand or tone of voice means they want their grid to aesthetically look the same. So not only do you need platform strategy, but you need within platform strategy. That's how I structured the book. And I think people really misunderstand the concept of relevance at scale to different consumer segmentations, which is going to make your grid look a little messy. But that's good because it means you're actually creating relevance with more consumers.
Yeah. And, you've also talked about today, even in the past 20 minutes, you talked about how important that first 3 seconds is, that hook to kind of get people to watch your content. Why is it important? Why is it valuable to them? I think value is something that you really like to hit on, which is super important. Can you give me how you would construct a hook in that first 3 seconds?
Simplicity, punch. You obviously are leading the witness because you're educated. I do think value matters. Like, what am I going to get out of this? Right? That's how I think about it. When I tell you there isn't a single time I do creative where I'm not like, what's this person going to get? Why should they consume this? This is what I razz a lot of my contemporaries who've done very well in life. I'm like, what value do you think you posting yourself on a private plane does for your audience? I'm like, I know what value it's doing for you. You're closing the gaps of insecurity. I'm like, but explain to me why this is good for them. And once in a while through the years, somebody would counter me with like, it's aspirational. I'm like, look, if I'm being overly kind, you can probably manipulate me into believing that, but it's not why you posted it. And so I think most of my career has been built on, I've been obsessed to why. When I think about the hook, it's like, why?
Yes.
And it's very of the moment. Like, here's an example. If you're in the home selling business on any side of the funnel, are high interest rates right now keeping you from being able to sell and buy a new home? Like that, is pretty much explaining to that person, like, why?
Right.
Like my world that I love with wine. By the way, everyone should sign up for winetext.com. Winetext, T-E-X-T. My dad would be very happy. But the reason I just did that little funny plug, though, seriously, though, you should buy from Winetext. It's that good. I'm helping my dad's store. That's like a new service we have. It's like Groupon. You get a deal of the day on text. You just reply with how many bottles. It's killing it.
Wow, cool.
And we're crushing my thesis. But that first 3 seconds need to be like, are you drinking the same rosé over and over and want to get a much better one for half the price? That's not very hard. I don't know how your drinking patterns are, but if you're into rosé, think about when I just did that. We're right on the precipice of rosé season. So I culturally know what's going on. I know what's going on with the consumer. And then you could see I can make that hook, right? And so, for day trading attention, it's like such easy content, right? It's like, Have you stagnated your growth on Instagram? Well, the answer is almost everyone has, because of why I'm writing this book. It's hard. It's supply and demand of attention. There's too much supply right now to get easy views.
Right.
And so you have to be better.
Yes.
That hook for the opening line, as you can imagine, I'm going to be able to get a lot of people to stop with that because it matters to them.
Right. Yeah, because you're meeting them where they are, right? You're meeting the consumer where they are. You're addressing their concerns, I think, is the important part.
And let me break down meeting where I am, because I think this will help a lot of people. I'm meeting them in distribution and need state. I'm meeting them where they are because people actually consume their feed in social. And I'm, to your point, which I think is what you're making, I'm meeting them on their need state right now.
Exactly. Which is the most important thing, right, for the consumer. And at least one part of your book, you kind of talked about quality versus quantity, and everybody's kind of always having that argument these days with social, right? Because you should put out more content, and that sometimes will sacrifice the quality. And it seems like your idea is to do both, right? Put out more content that is better. At any point, do you think creators can be oversaturating their own markets by putting out content?
No. Let me help creators right now. Almost everyone doesn't know who you are. Powerful silence after that. I wanted that to really settle in for everyone. When creators come in here who have like 51,000 followers and they're like, Gary, I don't want to be overexposed. I'm like, brother, good news. No one knows who the hell you are. Bro, I go to airports. I get stopped 13 times for selfies. It's profoundly a lot. It's a lot, but it's 4,000 people walk by me. You know what I mean?
You make a good point. So
overexposure, no, but it's a quality quantity ratio to your point. Does everybody have enough creative ideas to put out good content? Like, these are the things that are the issue, right?
Right.
I think that that's a huge issue, that most people aren't creative enough for new ideas, different formats. For brands that are listening, have they allocated enough money towards it? Brands will hire a creative AOR agency, millions of dollars to think of one idea for the year, but they don't spend that much money on producing social media creative. It's nuts. It's crazy. So, I think there's a lot to this.
Yeah. And in terms of coming up with creative, obviously a lot of people tend to go on the platform. Even in your book, you mentioned search kind of what your industry is, right? If you're a car dealership, you had a passage about car dealerships, right? If you own a car dealership, search car dealership, and you'll find some content that you like and that you can potentially replicate or put your own spin on. So the idea with creating new types of content, though, it has been interesting to me. Is it all right as well to try completely different formats that maybe haven't succeeded on the platforms yet? Or would you mainly put most of your energy to try to kind of mimic other things that have already been successful, but make them your own?
Yes. Both.
So both.
That's right. Corporate and entrepreneurs and creators alike love or. Everybody loves or, brother. People love or. And meanwhile, over here, the brilliant one, the good brother of the two brothers, because Or's the bad brother, is and. And sitting over here being like, yo, I'm here. I can solve all your problems. Like, it's unbelievable right now. I'm going to do a really interesting exercise. I think people are going to email me about this. My email is Gary@Vaynerx.com, Vaynerx. Email me only, because I get too many emails. Email me only if something profound just happened when I do this. Please stop. Forget about this interview. I hope you're enjoying it. And think about 1 or 2 or 3 things you're struggling with right now in life. Forget about even business. And just tell me, if you replace the or thinking with and thinking, I can do both. And that, not or. By the way, this happens all the time in my life when I do this with my inner circle of friends, family, associates. It's shocking what happens to your ability to solve a problem when you follow and versus or. And so if something just unlocked for you and you are on your way, please let me know. The answer is and. Of course you should do what's working. It's like being a brand. Gary, should we market to heavy users? Hell yeah. We need to keep them and hopefully get another unit out of them. But Gary, what about prospecting new users? Hell yeah. We want people to start the process of becoming a heavy user. So, of course. Yep. And that's actually the issue with brand guidelines and tone of voice. It makes everything so limited, nobody can make stuff.
Yeah.
And it's all politics. People are treating individual social media posts like a Super Bowl commercial. The meetings, brother, cost more than just posting the content.
Yep.
And back to that, when people are like, change that adjective or change that color purple to blue, post both.
Right. See what works. You have to try different things.
Remember, it's an ad. They're both ads. If you're willing to run the same commercial on television 4,000 times on a flight, why wouldn't you post the same piece of content twice with different colors or a slight change in adjective? People have got it all wrong, but I'm telling you, the game is broken. Fortune 5000 treats social like a bastard child when it's the golden goose, and their operational vigor and processes are based on television, which you take 9 months to think through something to get it out in the world, versus something that I just wrote a book called Day Trading on. Like, this is day to day. And it's an amazing opportunity. You can advertise every single day and things may pop. And then you'll sell stuff and get insights. It is crazy to me. All out of absolute ideology of the past, audacity, creatives that don't want to do in social because they're too good for it, forgot that they weren't good enough for Hollywood, so who are they? Like, the whole thing's broken, bro. The whole thing's broken.
Yeah, you know what? Kind of going off of that, these Fortune 5000 companies, I really wanted to hit on this particular point that we've seen so many influencers, creators, whatever you want to call them, people that are very popular online come out with their own products, right? So we've seen, Logan Paul Prime, we've seen skincare brands abound. I feel like everybody's got a skincare brand nowadays. But, we've seen all these brands come out from these creators, more niche creators and smaller creators than, for example, one guy versus Dove or one guy versus GE or something like that. Do you think that influencers or private brands can ever kind of eclipse corporations in this new landscape?
Yeah, not only do I think they could, I predict they will. I believe that in 15 years when we wake up, toothpaste, deodorant, potato chips, sneakers, everything, that there's an extraordinary amount of opportunity. You know how I know this? Because it already happened. I don't know if you heard of this brand of sneakers called Air Jordans.
I've heard of it, yes.
Yes, okay. Let me tell you what the Air Jordan version's going to be in the future. Along the way, the next LeBron, Kobe, or Jordan, somebody in the next 20 years will have the courage to, instead of taking the $100 million bag from Reebok or Nike or Under Armour, they're going to do it themselves. And I know people are like, Gary, but supply chain, I get it. But too many of the things are getting commoditized, supply chain, distribution, and it's just very clear to me. Now, that's a tough one because of supply chain and distribution, but what is not tough is pretzels. What is not tough is tissues. And so these humans have so much awareness built in and so much relevance built in. They're winning on relevance and awareness. It's all the same. The game's the same. Gary, you don't believe in reach and frequency. It's the only thing I believe in. I don't believe that GRPs and digital programmatic impressions are actual awareness. I think you're buying bullshit on potential reach, not actualized reach. I think I'm just buying media on places that are actually reached. That's it. By the way, I don't care about social media. I'm going to make fun of social media in 10 years when our attention's somewhere else. I used to love email and banner ads. Brother, when you were a babe, what year were you born?
1994. Man,
I love it. When you were 3 years old, I was buying banner ads on winespectator.com and getting 6% click-through. Do you know how insane that is? I don't know if you know about banner ads numbers these days, 0.00000. Like, but it was the early internet, and the few people, probably at the time, tens of thousands that were going to winespectator.com, the most progressive guys and gals on Wall Street and law firms in New York City that were early movers that were into wine. They looked at the banner ad because we didn't know any better. That was part of the full experience. Now it's gone. The only reason social is winning is the ads are natively integrated to the experience. The feed is the feed is the feed. Right. Whereas when you're watching television, Gary, people still watch sports. I'm like, I know, but they don't watch sports commercials.
No, they do not.
Except for the Super Bowl. And so, I think that there's a lot of that. So yes, I think many of the biggest brands in 15 years will be created by human-based influencers. Now, will they see them coast to coast? I don't think so. I think the Procter & Gamble's and Kraft's and PepsiCo's will end up buying those things for billions of dollars, and they'll become brands there. So they'll buy them out. but I think they'll be created by, and I think one or two entrepreneurs will come along the way and go evergreen, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you make a great point there, because I feel like there's this continuous dichotomy between the creators and these businesses, these giant businesses. Because, right, you know, like Wendy's has a Twitter account, right? All of these companies have their TikTok accounts. Some do it really well, some don't do it really well. But it's very, very hard, or a lot harder, it seems, for a brand to become meaningful to someone versus another person or somebody that they feel like they know. How can a brand do that? I feel like the best example of this could be Duolingo on TikTok, but how can a brand become more humanized?
By having a mascot. You know, we worked on Duolingo in LATAM, full disclosure. We work on Mug Root Beer in America right now. There's no coincidence why that's crushing. It's because it's us. We know what to do. And it's a mascot. Flo from Progressive, Jake from State Farm, the Geico Lizard. They work. When I say our forefathers and mothers had it right, they did. The jingles, the mascots. We lost our way in the 90s in advertising and have never come back. We're not as creative as we think we are. We overemphasize data when it's commoditized. We're not as good at marketing. Like Don Draper's dead. Like we don't have that level of talent. If you're talented enough, you do your own shit.
Right.
So we've got to recognize that. I've built one of the largest independent advertising agencies in the world in the last 14 years. The day before I started it, I worked in a liquor store. That shouldn't have been allowed.
Yeah.
I'm going to say again, they allowed it because all of the holding companies and the creative AORs, and they all poo-pooed and laughed at where the attention was. I was able to grow. That is a mistake. And that's what brands are doing wrong. Brands can win, brother. To your point, you brought out Wendy's, growth. You can bring out Slim Jim, growth. You can bring out Elf Cosmetics, growth. You can bring out Poppy, growth. There's a lot of examples, my guy. People are like, oh, people will only go with humans. I'm like, people love Louis Vuitton handbags. People love their iPhone.
Oh my God, do they? Yeah.
People like brands and products. Here's the difference. Humans, random humans, entrepreneurs, are better at marketing than agencies and brands. The reason the humans are working is they know what to do in marketing. It's called the new world. This is now the television. For everybody who's listening, I'm holding up my phone. And the television has become the radio. And we don't want to admit it. John, we do not want to admit it in agency land. You know that.
No, we do not. We never did. And we may never will.
And yes, we will, because we're going to be forced to. Agencies are going to go out of business, brother. I don't think people get it.
Yeah.
You can only hold on to a fake environment in B2B for so long. You know who didn't want streaming to happen? The cable incumbents. It didn't matter what they want. You know who didn't want influencers to happen? Actors and actresses. It didn't matter what they wanted. It doesn't matter that agencies make all their money on black box DMPs and television commercial creative. The market will adjust because the brands are going to get hurt. And after a while of them being hurt, they're going to blame their partners at some point.
Yeah. Listen, I mean, it's a big change happening. And something that I don't want to miss is that, you know, we talk about these Fortune 5,000 companies. There's also a lot in your book, and just you speak about daily about small businesses and how small businesses can kind of work together at times, and how small businesses can stay alive during this time and thrive during this time. Now, from that big corporation down to a small business, how does a small business create a social strategy, and how does a small business thrive today?
They become the agency. They have to do it internally, and they have to live my life and the millions of people I see on social for their car wash and their dog walking business. They have to do it. And so, like, if you're 47 right now and you're listening, you're 47, you're young, you're a year younger than me, and you're like, I don't even know what to do. I don't even have a social media account. But you have like a sandwich shop and you have 3 employees at the register daily. My intuition is that a lot of them are under 25 or, you know, potentially from an immigrant. Like, you got to literally walk in as you're listening to this on the treadmill or walking your dog or on the way to the car. You got to walk into the store and be like, any of you want to make organic social media content for our business? Like, you got to start making it. And they're probably going to stink, or they're remarkable. Maybe they're naturally remarkable, or they do it for themselves so they knew what to do with your sandwich or your bag of chips or the milkshakes you sell. And so what do? They take their resources and they make creative at scale to the best of their ability. And that's why I love books. This is no bullshit. Somebody in my company who's very smart goes, I love the book. I got to be frank with you. I'm a little bit concerned. I said, about what? They said, it feels like you're giving our agency secrets away to everyone. And I said, yes, we may be ahead of people right now, but it's not like, Jon, for you, it's a little bit deeper. I'm sure you had, when you were reading, you're like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, aha. Oh, that's why. So, but I'm not going to be able to hold on to that information forever. That's why I'm so intellectually generous. If I could keep it forever as a secret sauce, I would make the Big Mac too and never tell anyone, but it's not going to play out that way anyway. So I'd rather actually build relationships and karma and value for the world, even quote unquote, my competitors. What I said to this executive was, we don't compete with anyone. There's no agency taking our business. There'll be incredible agencies that beat us in pitches and things of that nature. And that's wonderful. That's just, we weren't good enough, or they were remarkable, or the person making the subjective call wasn't ready for what we do. But nobody's taking away from us. We're taking away from ourselves. Mm-hmm. If we're good, we're good. And so I think that why I'm so excited and why I write books is for $28 or $20 or whatever this ends up being on Amazon, a small business owner literally gets the blueprint, literally. And the resources, back to your question, will be down to normally just them themselves, mm-hmm. or the employees they have, or if they're a bigger small business, they can hire someone to do it. And that's the game.
Mm-hmm. And, I appreciate you bringing up that concern from your employee who said that you're giving away secrets, because a concern that I would have actually writing a book like this that talks about the social media landscape and how you can be a part of it and what you can do very eloquently, may I add. The only thing that I would be concerned about is that in a year, it would be completely different, like writing a book in 2023, putting out a book in 2024, in 2026. I mean, everything could be completely topsy-turvy.
You'll love this. Not everything, but certain things are already different. By the way, I wish I could have backed up the ocean spray starting to this book with the mango gummies part. It would have made the book better. I would have given you 2 examples of sellout from one social media post. So, of course, things will change. But minimally, first of all, I hope you captured this. I wrote it in a manner that will allow people to create the macro strategy framework. And that won't change if things that I see coming, like Vine coming back and it being good, I didn't get a chance to tell you what best practices on Vine are in this book. So that will be missing. So to your point, every day that the book is alive, it has the potential and likelihood of being a little less relevant. On the flip side, I'm pretty fortunate. I am so ahead of the masses on this, including anybody and everybody in Madison Avenue marketing, that there's going to be a lot of value in the upfront, right? I mean, did you do any of the QR codes? Like, did you actually?
Yeah, I did. That was really fun. I've never seen that in a book before, actually.
Yeah, so everybody, I put QR codes to the posts that I was talking about in the book. My belief is that if for someone who's incentivized to be great at this, they're going to do one case study in the book, one QR code, one reading what I had to say about it and be like, oh, okay. And then literally be better the next day. And all of a sudden, instead of getting 4,000 views per their videos, get 8,000. And that feels incredible. And so I think there'll be more than enough value for the $28 for everybody who reads it, from a creator, an influencer, a small business, an executive. I mean, talk a lot about LinkedIn. One of the people that should definitely be buying this book are people that are in jobs that are not fulfilling them. If they get good at LinkedIn, they're going to get new job offers.
Right. And that's how you do it. And I completely agree. And also, with that said, you did say before that agencies will have a tough time at some point, right? What does the future look like at VaynerMedia, VaynerX to you? Where are you guys going? What's next?
Overall, or in an AI environment?
Oh, overall, but maybe hit on the AI environment too. I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, I think, we are remarkable at content creation at low cost that is high value. Obviously, we're going to integrate those kind of tools and everybody's going to get better and better at that. And so we have to stay on top of that. So I pay attention to that. In the back row, man, I really think I'm going to build the largest independent advertising agency in the world. I'm getting dangerously close as it is. Wyden Kennedy's out there doing its thing. Big shout out. But we're really ambitious over here. One thing I will say, and I'm very proud of this, one thing I can easily predict, and I hate predicting, I believe that in 15 years, I will be, what am I doing, 63, 62, depending on the timing. And I'm going to poke my head up and be like, wait a minute. 13 of the Fortune 500 CMOs came up as a kid at Vayner. This is remarkable. That to me, I got to tell you, brother, I say that for two reasons. One, for all the leaders here, nothing should be at the top of your list more than the people that work with you and for you to have success, whether in your or outside of your organization. And two, I say it because I can't wait to clip this in 15 years and split screen it and say, I told you. Because what I do know right now is, and this is a real plea, actually, this is a huge plea to anybody who's 40 to 50, maybe even 35 to 55 in marketing right now, either on the holding company agency side or in a corporation. Please don't put your head in the sand to what's going on. This is about to devour the whole industry. What happened in streaming to regular TV and cable is about to happen in advertising. And Vayner and I will benefit, but there's so much more room than just us to benefit from. We're a pimple on the ass. So many of you can really change your career trajectory, but you've got to get good at where attention really is and what creative is required to fill that attention to make the action of the buy, whatever the buy represents, the donation, the vote, the consideration to do something. It's just imperative. And I just think people are mailing it in and they think they're going to be okay because they know programmatic or Google. I don't know. I'm just shocked that people are willing to let this tornado take them up.
Yeah. And, to kind of end with this, I feel like you mentioned AI before.
Yep.
And there's a lot of stuff happening with AI today. Obviously, at the time of recording, GPT 4.0 just came out. Everybody's kind of in a tailspin about that. But with AI kind of being on the forefront, with, I don't know, a potential TikTok ban looming, probably going to take a while, but if that happens. But TikTok as well is advertising content that is made with AI, for example, nowadays. So where do you see social media going if AI content starts to flood the platforms and has a situation there? I
mean, there's plenty of content now flooding. I'm not worried about content flooding. I'm worried about people outflanking the commodity. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to say this nice and slow. When, not if. When the platforms themselves are helping you generate the creative because it's their algorithms. And it's going to help you create content that's going to do well on the platform. Midjourney doesn't know what the hell's going inside of Meta's pipes, but Meta does. Midjourney's the commodity, not Meta, right?
Right.
But what happens when everybody's using that? All of a sudden, you know this, you've seen this because you pay attention. There's like a trend of what content works. I started the trend of like chopping up your podcast into 1,000 pieces.
Right.
But then now everyone does. Like I've got a lot of offsprings. There's a lot of my kids out there, But then I have to adjust.
Right.
And so when the content is commoditized because everyone's doing it, it means the content by nature won't be as effective as we want it to be. And that's what gets into prompt engineering. And that's what gets into creative thinking and critical thinking and strategy. It is day trading attention. Yeah. I'm really happy with this title. I'll tell you why. It hit me the other day on a chat. I'd never thought of it prior to 2 days ago. Day trading attention. How to actually build brand and sales in the new social media world. This is my dummy series. I'm going to write a book in 10 years that says day trading attention. How to actually build brand and sales in the new VR world.
It's great.
The reason I'm comfortable with this book is I'm going to help people strategically create the framework of execution. And then they just have to be good at paying attention to platforms and culture daily to then do the thing. That's what I think.
It's awesome. Well, Gary, thank you so much for the time today. Thanks for some advice. Thanks for some wisdom. Thanks for some chats. It's been really, really fun. I hope to see you again real soon.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you. And that's all we got today, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're a proud part of the HubSpot Podcast Network. Our editor today is Robert Hartwig, and our executive producer is Darren Clark. We've got a lot more tech and business coverage in our newsletter. If you're not subscribed, go get yourself signed up at thehustle.co/email, and we'll see you tomorrow. Hey everybody, I got a great podcast to tell you about. It's called Truth, Lies, and Work, and it's brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. On this show, you can join husband and wife team Al and Leanne Elliott as they dispel myths, impart wisdom, and answer all your questions about finding, keeping, and motivating great people. They actually just did an episode with John Smith, who is the manager and agent of famous Argentinian soccer player Diego Maradona. He talks about in this episode how he was able to manage the global superstar, athlete, celebrity that Maradona is and was. It's a great listen. You better get out there and check it out. And you can listen to Truth, Lies, and Work wherever you get your podcasts.